Okay, so now that we established what the cofunction relationship is, where we just said that the sine of A will equal the cosine of B only when A plus B is 90, aka the angles are complements, there's a couple different applications, and I have like maybe 5 examples I want to look at. So, in this case, I have the sine of 6A is equal to the cosine of 3A. That makes 6A and 3A the angles. Sine only equals cosine when the angles are complements. So what you conclude from this then, forget about the sine and the cosine, because you see sine of something is equal to cosine of something, you know the two angles have to add to 90. So you would write 6A plus 3A equals 90. Solve the little equation, that's 9A equals 90, divide, and A is 10. Now maybe they want the angle measurement, so you can say 6A is 6 times 10, 60, 3A is 3 times 10, 30, and you could always check that. You can check the sine of 60 degrees, 0.8660, and you can check the cosine of 30 and get the same 0.8660, and that would be enough for you to check your answer. Same concept here. I have the cosine of something equaling the sine of something. Well, that only happens when the angles are complements. So you would say 40 minus x plus 3x, right? Those are my two angles, has to equal 90. And you'd solve that. Well, negative x and 3x is 2x. That's a positive 40. Subtract the 40 from both sides. 2x is equal to 50. Divide. And x is 25. Alright, so that's another way to take a look at that. Alright, harder. In scalene right triangle, so you know all three sides are different, which makes all three angles different. Right triangle ABC with angle B as your right angle. So I'm just going to draw a right triangle. They said B is my right angle, so I'll put B there with my right angle symbol. What relationship is always true? Alright, well I'll put A and C in the other two spots, it doesn't matter which. Now, remember, 1, 2, 3 angles have to add up, 1, 2, 3 angles have to add up to 180 degrees. Well, this one's 90 by itself, right? 180 minus 90 means this angle here and this angle here, A and C, have to be complements. They have to add up to 90 because this one adds up to 90 by itself. So 90 plus these two together, 90 adds to your 180. So that would mean that the sine of A would have to equal the cosine of C. Or the sine of C would have to equal the cosine of A. All right, sine equals cosine only when the angles are complementary. Well, these angles are always, the acute angles of a right triangle are always complementary. And that's a tough way for them to ask that question because it's, you know, you got to read through all of it and really understand what they're talking about. 2 more. Same concept. This is actually a very easy question, but you'll see why it looks confusing in a second. In right triangle DEF, angle F is the right angle. If the sine of angle D is radical 3 over 2, and you sit there and you say, well, why? Why would you do that? It's not so unnecessary, but really, this is a multiple choice answer, question rather. One of the answers is going to be, well, hold on. If F is the right angle, that makes D and E the acute angles. So if the sine of angle D equals this, then the cosine of angle E, right? Sine equals cosine only when the angles are complements. These angles are complements, right? Would equal the exact same thing. Based purely off of the cofunction relationship. Lastly, there's 2 ways to look at this question. Cosine of 62. Well, cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine of 28. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So you could sit there and check. All right, first of all, where did the 62 come from? Well, 180, right? They have to add up to 28 and 90. When you subtract that from 180, leaves you with 62 degrees there. All right, so I guess you know all 3 angles, fine. So cosine of 62 means you're looking at this guy, adjacent HJ over hypotenuse. So that's right. Sine of 28. So now I guess we're dealing with this guy. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is HJ again. So this guy's right too. So really they're both correct, which you can sit there and check by your basic SOHCAHTOA. Or you can say to yourself, well, hold on. I know these two angles have to be complements. And there. So if they're both complements, then the cosine of one would have to equal the sine of the other, right? Because 62 plus 28 equals 90. So the cosine of one would equal the sine of the other. And those are generally the only ways the state has asked that. Hopefully that you understand that. Look, if you're going to take anything away, just make sure you know that the sine of 1 degree is equal to the cosine of what? All right? Sine equals cosine only when the angles are complementary. So 89 degrees. Why? Because sine of A equals cos of B when A plus B equals 90. All right? That's the most important thing to take out of this lesson. Sine of A equals cos of B when A plus B equals 90. All right? That's that. Have a good rest of your day.